us once we go live.
But we never look at the camera. We just look at each other.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you can look at each other. If you want to talk to the camera, like you got an important message you want to send, you can look at the camera.
Needs emphasis.
Yeah. You know, but like I said, the TV, if you ever want to like make sure like, you know, whatever, you can look at the TV and then it'll show us. And
it's like 3 or 4 seconds later.
Yeah.
Should be fine.
So that's like what the TV is, what they're watching at home. So that's what it is. All right. Ramsey, 6 o'clock. Let's get the show on the road. Hey, we got a new ad, by the way. Letter G is Juice Box. All right. So I just want to let you know, Juice Box. Are you live? What's going on, everybody? Shout out to Juice Box because that's the first ad we're going to be running. Okay. Welcome to season 2, episode 29 of Motivate Me 313 podcast. I titled this one Woman Pioneers because we have another woman pioneer with us today. Before we introduce our guest, I want to introduce the co-host of today's show. First of all, you got little sis Sada Thabit right here to the right of me. So you want to go ahead and give her a round of applause. Big Rams. All right. By the way, I like to say that this is the only podcast. I've been slacking on saying this line. It's the only podcast I feel like in the United States of America. Someone might have to fact check me, that has 2 Yemeni women co-hosts, but I like to take my chances because I don't think we've ever heard one yet. So again, shout out to little sis Sada Thabit. Of course, you got myself, Omar T, and then you got big sis Abid Thabit in the building today as well. Go ahead and give her a round of applause because we gave Sada a round of applause, and Abid would feel some type of way if we didn't give her. And then our guest today is Petra Alsoofy. Go ahead and give her a round of applause. You know, mashallah, gets a lot of things done in the community. Mashallah, does a lot of stuff. We're going to definitely dive into all of it. You know, we've been, you know, listen, when you have numerous people recommend you to come on the show, then we have to make it happen, you know, and subhanAllah, how it all worked out. You know, I had you on my list of people to get on the show, but shout out to MotivateMe313. She gave me that nudge because I've been bothering me about this for months.
I didn't know her as a person or whatever, like, or face to face, but I've been hearing so much good things about you, and I'm like, bro, this is the one. Bring her on.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
For sure. So alhamdulillah, we were able to make that happen today. Looking forward, like I said, to a great show. But before we continue on, I do want to say be sure to subscribe to all of our pages. We have YouTube, Oz Media, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok under Oz Media. You can listen to the show later on Apple and Spotify podcasts under Oz Media. And if you want to call in, the number is 313-306-1750. Again, 313-306-1750. We're just going to dive into a lot of topics. Like I said, we're going to be talking about abortion. We're going to be talking about Muslim Women's Day. You know, we mental health, a lot of different things. So, you know, tune in. If you're watching live, you have anything you want to share with us, call. I got my phone right here with me, ready to go. So I just want to throw that out there as well. And then the sponsors. You know, as I was mentioning, we have a new sponsor of the show, which is Juice Box Hamtramck. Don't forget the other sponsors, of course. You got the Balkan House, Hanley International Academy, Qahwa House, and BC Adhesives. Shout out to the Juice Box, though. We're going to go ahead and run their ad for the first time. I want to be able to hear myself again just to make sure I didn't mess up on the Juice Box ad, but I think it should be good to go. Shout out to Hakeem. You know, he's been pushing me to run this, you know, be an ad, and I told him, I was like, you know, I don't want you to, you know, feel like that, you know, you're late into the year, but he's like, I don't care. Let's do it. So I was like, go ahead. Let's run the ad. So shout out to Juice Box Hamtramck, and we're going to dive into the show right after. So go ahead, Ramsey, and run that ad. Juice Box and Hamtramck. Juice Box and Hamtramck is a new business that we've all been waiting for. If you're looking for a place with the best smoothies, milkshakes, ice cream, crepes, cereal bars, and slushies, then Juice Box and Hamtramck is your one-stop shop. You can try things like their Biscoff or Nutella shakes, crepes, watermelon blasts, strawberry burst or mango smoothies, as well as cereal options such as Fruit Loops, Cinnamon Toast Crunch, and Fruity Pebbles. They even have a comfortable outdoor patio/courtyard area that you and your friends can enjoy while trying those delicious drinks. So be sure to stop by Juice Box in Hamtramck. Location is 11647 Joseph Campo Avenue, and be ready to leave there with a big smile on your face. And if you're on the run, order your drink from their new Juice Box app, downloadable on all of your smartphone devices. All right, so first of all, I want to say...
Give everyone a round of applause for that.
First of all, I want to say 2 things. First of all, the app will be coming in a couple weeks. He did want me to mention that, but I figured that this will be something that we'll have for a few months. So, you know, by the time, inshallah, a couple weeks from now, it will be out there. And then second of all, next week Saturday. So remember we had the show with Bilal Abid, and that was like, this was like how it all. It's funny how it all came together. We were like, hey, why don't we do something? Toys, like make Eid more like something that kids can look forward to. So next week Saturday, donation time again. So Juice Box, 100% of the proceeds will be going to Eid Toys for Kids. So next week Saturday we'll be going live April 15th at Juice Box. We'll be going live at midnight. So for those that go to sleep early, probably means watching the next day. But we'll be going live at midnight. But they'll be open till 2 a.m. 100% of the proceeds, and I'll be posting something inshallah on Wednesday talking about it. But 100% of the proceeds will be going towards Eid Toys for Kids. So we're looking forward to that. We want to donate toys for the kids so that we can give it away to their families. Shout out to Hakeem. He's the one that actually came up with the toy idea, and then that's when I was like, oh my God, we were just actually talking about that. Maybe he tuned into the show. That's how he came up with the idea. And shout out to Hakeem. He actually does watch the show too. But
Hakeem always been generous.
Yeah, for sure. Generous guy. Shout out to Billy Buckets, aka MVP. Billy said, Salam, watching the show with his daughters. Great decision to do because we have a pioneer today with us today, and that is Petra Alsoofy.
Definitely a role model.
Definitely a role model as well. So Petra, can you first tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, and everything in between? So go ahead, Petra.
Well, thank you both, or all of you actually, and thank you for inviting me and hosting me here. Thank you for all the recommendations that came in. And hearing the word pioneer or role model is a little scary here. I usually just introduce myself as Petra, but for the sake of this conversation, I'm going to not be as shy about it. I am Petra Alsoofy. I am a very proud Yemeni-American Muslim professional woman that have worked in many spaces, from academia, business, larger Arab American space, and alhamdulillah now larger American space or national American space. I'm an appointed commissioner on the Michigan Board of Social Work. I'm also on the board of the Michigan Center for Civic Education and the AAYSP, the American Association of Yemeni Students and Professionals. And professionally, I am the Outreach and Partnerships Manager at the Institute for Social Policy and Understanding.
Wow.
Go ahead and give her a round of applause, mashallah. Doing it. She's doing it, all right? So going off of that, basically, mashallah, you're always involved in community work. For those that didn't just hear that, all the stuff that she's doing. Why do you feel it's important to give back to your community? We'll start off with that.
Yeah, so this is kind of a loaded question because some people are blessed and they have enough in their life and they have gained enough that they should be given back. So that's one reason. For those of us who have made it and have kind of trailed back, walked the walk, it's important to come back and give and make it easier for others. For others, unfortunately, they don't feel their community have given them enough for them in order to give back. So they might feel disenfranchised, even just thinking about the idea of giving back. So for them, I say, be the change that you want to see, and change the things that you don't like about your community, your family, the society you live in, because you were made for a reason. And the other reason, or the last reason I would say, is each one of us have our own expertise. Whether you have a college degree or you don't, you have a lived experience. Each one of us have a lived experience that can and should empower you to have a voice that will enable the community to make the changes that it needs. And I'm talking here whether it's the Yemeni community, the larger Arab community, the larger Muslim community, or even just the larger society that we're in. Our lived experiences as people who are immigrant or people who are second generation or whatever layers of identity you have are things that are huge assets to any conversation and any decision making that are being made. So really be engaged and be involved.
So you sit on a lot of boards. Why do you feel that's important to also, be seen in those positions?
So I sit on a couple boards. I try to limit my engagement to things that are meaningful. It's important to be in those decision-making places, Oftentimes, you might be the only Yemeni, or you might be the only Muslim or you might be the only woman, or you might be the only muhajjaba, or you might be the only Muslim man. It's really important to be there, to be part of those conversations, especially when those conversations are about things that matter to us, matter to, you know, whether it's our families, our kids, our community, and again, or even the larger society, because we are part of the society. And there are a lot of decisions that are being made in the larger space that impact us, that for a very long time and until now, most of us are not part of those decisions. And one really good way to really have a say in how those decisions are being made is to be on boards.
Yep. Make sure you get that seat on the table.
Definitely. And if it's not there, make a seat.
Yeah. First quote of the day, yeah. First clap of the day. It's funny that you say that. You know Sharif al-Banna?
Yes.
Okay. She wants to do a show where, inshallah, we're going to be moving the couches, and she said she wants to have tables.
Yeah.
It's all about having a seat at the table. So that's kind of like the round table, you know? And so that's funny that you say that, because that's you know, kind of the very similar mindset, similar thinking as well. So moving on to the next question is Muslim Women's Day was last week. Can you share with us, you know, what's that all about, and share with us any facts that people may not know about with Muslim Women's Day? I believe you posted something. That's what kind of made me interested to ask you this question.
Yeah.
So I did see that post. So, you know, Muslim Women's Day, I'll be honest with you, I know of International Women's Day, but I didn't know about Muslim Women's Day. Can you maybe, I don't know if you know the origin story of that too.
I didn't even know either.
Yeah.
Looked it up.
Oh, okay. That's Google.
So we at ISPU, we do partner with a lot of organizations. And the founder of Muslim Women Day is Muslim girl, Aman al-Khatib. And, you know, as you said, there's, you know, Hijab Day, International, there's a lot of days for a lot of things. Muslim Women Day, this one specifically on March 27th, came as a response to the Muslim ban. And it's specifically to give Muslim women a voice and a place to share their own narratives and their own stories, which is crucial. You know, for a very long time, just like in the larger American story, people talked about American Muslims. Same thing. People talk about about Muslim women. They have assumptions about who we are and what we do and how oppressed we are and all of that. And so this, you know, Muslim Women Day is a platform to have Muslim women share their own narrative and their own stories and speak for themselves. And so for my job, for the work that I do, because we do research on American Muslims, obviously Muslim women is one of the huge topics that we research for a lot of reasons. One, because it's actually stereotypes against Muslim women are the most popular. You know, so we measure stereotypes about American Muslims, and one of the stereotypes that we measure the public perception on that is, do you think that most Muslims discriminate against women? We also measure, you know, do you think they're violent? Do you think they're hostile to the U.S.? Do you think they're less civilized? And the one about them discriminating against Muslim women is the most popular. And of course, you know, if you follow politics, you know, wars have been launched in the name of freeing Muslim women. But we also know from our own tradition and history that's kind of counter-narrative to what we know about ourselves and our tradition and our history. So some of the facts that I brought with me from our own research is, even though the most popular stereotype is that Muslims in general discriminate against women, yes, we do have discrimination in the Muslim community, so that's a separate conversation that we internally need to have. But discrimination or misogyny against Muslim women is not different from misogyny against women in the general public. Yes. Misogyny exists, period. What Muslim women experience is a disproportionate level of religious and racial discrimination. Meaning, if I use myself as an example, I am more likely to be discriminated against because I'm a Muslimah, muhajjaba probably, than because I'm just a woman. African American women are more likely to be discriminated against because they're African American, because they're black, than because they're just women.
Yeah.
And so if you think about it in that context, you know, African American Muslim women, that's 3 layers of discrimination there. The other, some of the other facts too is Muslim women actually have a higher level of education than Muslim men. It's something that I like and I hate at the same time. 73% of Muslim women versus 57% of Muslim women have post-high school education. And then another fact is 29% of Muslim women are full-time employed. So it seems very low, but it's the same level as women of other faith communities. And that's one of the things that we try to do is look at Muslims compared to other faith communities. Are we really that different? And then the last fact I'm going to share is both Muslim men and Muslim women think that or view their faith as a very important aspect of their life, and they attend the mosque at a similar rate, even though we know it's required of men but not of women. So Muslim women are attending the mosque similar to what Muslim men are attending it.
Wow. So what I see is
More you know.
There's a lot more, but
okay.
we'll stop here.
No.
That's
sure?
plenty. Yes.
What I see is there's a correlation between how women are just like fiercely trying to make it to the top, while the men are just like kind of. I feel like it kind of plays a part with a lot of our older traditions. Like they want people to work instead of follow the school system or whatever.
Yeah.
So, I mean.
No, and I do appreciate you. I'm sorry, did I cut you off?
No.
I do appreciate how you explained it in a sense of misogyny is in every aspect versus, we're being treated differently because of, racial and religious.
Yeah.
And that's what I try to explain to other people too, but,
And that does not take away from the conversation that we need to have within our own communities
Right.
about misogyny, because that hinders us. But I think what we're trying to differentiate here is others should not be coming into our own communities and saying, we need to liberate your women for you.
Yeah.
Like, you're not helping. Women in the community and men in the community will figure that out by themselves. Yeah. Sometimes outside interference actually is counterproductive. And I just want to comment very quickly on the, men are kind of lagging behind because they might not take it seriously, or I think society and culture put a lot of different expectations on men and women. And I used to think that, men just didn't take it as seriously, but we expect the men to work. We expect the men to provide. We expect.
That's true.
And for a very long time, and it will continue to be true, education is the only way for a lot of women, whether it's in the Yemeni community or in other Muslim communities or other communities in general. Education is the only way for them to achieve their dreams, to establish their own independence. So that's why it's a little bit easier for them to push for it.
100%. No, I could just see for myself growing up, I would have never been able to just work straight out of high school, like a regular, a regular job. While my brothers, were able to work and you know what I'm saying, and then try to go to school. So they did push school for me first.
Yep.
So there is definitely that cultural background. So I do see that.
First of all, my wife was saying, mashallah, Allahumma barak, such an inspiration.
Thank you.
We need to clarify who she was talking about. So I'm joking. It was definitely Petra. And then second of all, Mona Maori chimed in. Mona, I don't know if we gave you a shout out before, but definitely going to give you a shout out again. Appreciate you for helping us get this show together and getting Petra on a show. Given that the percentage of Muslim women with higher degrees is higher than Muslim men, I wonder what the stats on leadership positions are. I don't know if you have that, but that is a great question.
I don't have the stats on that, but I could tell you from a general conversation. Again, this is not unique to American Muslim spaces or to Yemeni spaces. This is a national conversation. Women are not in leadership positions that they need to be in. They do the work, all of it sometimes, most of it, but they're not given the credit and they're not placed in leadership positions. And that's just the reality. And I think there's a lot of conversations about changing that. I know personally I have actually rejected board positions because I was the only women representation, and I've made a commitment because all my life work was about empowering myself as a woman, but empowering other women. And, when we live in the time that we live in right now, I don't think there is an excuse for people to have our sole Yemeni women represented. I'm talking about Yemeni community here specifically. I've rejected offers like this and said, no, I don't want to walk into that room and be the woman represented. I want to walk in that room and be one of among, others, 5,
Which
6,
is understandable.
the board. Yeah.
And I do want to say something before we move on to the next topic. When you spoke about how, we obviously have our own cultural challenges when it
Yeah.
comes to women and men in the workplace and all that. I want to say something like, I'm so proud of my brother. Before we started this podcast, I'm not gonna lie to you, I was like, who's gonna want to listen to us online? Like, I'm like, people, I was so worried about people. But honestly, having my brother behind me pushed me, and there's so much good that came out of this, and honestly, like, imagine if all of our brothers were behind their sisters.
Yep.
And also pushing themselves. Like, we can be a lot more advanced than where we are right today.
Absolutely.
So-
And I think sometimes brothers want to do that, but the cultural pressure that we put on them is pushing them to sometimes act against their own desire.
Yeah, because there's a lot of my friends, they're like, oh my God, yeah, our family is like so proud of you guys, blah, blah, blah. And then I'm like, okay, come on the show. And they're like, oh no, but we still can't.
Yeah.
And I'd be like it's so controversial.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest with you guys. Still to this day, it's awkward for me to send these links in the WhatsApp group. So there's all the guys like I like you never. It's just like for like 3-4 hours, it's quiet, and then like the topic will come on, like maybe like somebody will talk about sports or something like at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night. Like it's like just a weird situation, but I don't care. I still do it. It's not gonna stop me. Like at this point, it's like now it's like we're already in season 2, so it's past that. But it's
There's
just
certain
funny.
conversations that need to be heard.
Yeah. And funny that you say that because I want to have a topic about women in leadership positions. It feels like that could be a whole separate topic that we can talk about. And that would, just came off of what your answer.
I want a topic about I'm like blinking out. Childhood trauma.
Oof.
I want that because I feel like we have a lot of that in our community.
We do.
Yeah,
I
we
would have
definitely.
a topic on, find a role model for men that will follow the prophetic leadership.
Yes,
Because I think we're doing disservice to our men and our boys because we don't have that.
it's true.
And that's why we have some of the issues that we have.
Yeah.
They're very
Are we jotting this down?
Yeah. I think Ramsey is. Is that what Ramsey's doing? There you go. Shout out to Ramsey. Just woke him up from a mini nap right there. Looks like. No, I'm joking. So another couple weeks ago, you had a panel about mental health.
Yeah.
Mental health is a topic that we've talked about a couple times on our shows here with my sisters, but never can talk about it enough.
Never.
So what was that about? How did that go? And what was the main? I guess because mental health is so broad. Like, what did you guys focus on? I guess.
It is very broad. So one thing that I see myself as is a connector, and someone who loves to connect people to each other, resources, and connect them to resources. Obviously, because of the work that I do, I know, I have a good idea of how big the mental health crisis that we have in the larger Muslim space. Because of my work and my involvement in the community, I know some of the issues that we face in the Yemeni community, and I know those are not unique. Again, they're part of the larger American Muslim conversation. They're also part of what we're seeing nationally as part of the larger society. So for example, we know like 1/3 of the American Muslim community have. 1/3 of the community have someone, or they say they know someone who is struggling with addiction, for example. We also know in the larger American Muslim space that Muslims are twice as likely to have attempted suicide compared to compared to others, to other faith groups. And of course, I know of the other specific situations and incidents that have happened, whether it's here in the Metro Detroit, New York, or some of the other Yemeni communities. So there was a lot of heightened tension and heightened just stress about the mental health crises that were happening nationally. It just happened that at the same time I was part of a group that was doing community response to the unfortunate shooting that happened at MSU. So I was kind of quietly sitting in and as people are organizing response, how to help the Muslim students on campus, and then how to have conversations around healing and addressing the community need. So the two things happened at the same time. I felt like I was kind of the link between the two conversations. And alhamdulillah, I was able to connect the two groups, the mental health professionals from the MSU Respond group um, to the need that was happening in the Yemeni community itself. And because of my work, I'm connected to Dr. Rania Awad, so I was able to kind of connect that group as well. And I know her work on Islamic psychology and mental health, in the way she does just so beautifully connect that to our tradition, which I know that's exactly the conversation that needs to happen in the Yemeni community. So I felt like I was able with other people to connect the dots and connect the groups to each other. And a group of us came together. It was a group effort. It was not me. I was just connecting. We organized the panel. Dr. Rania, graciously volunteered her time and her expertise. We were able to put a panel together that I helped crafted some of the questions for, to kind of the conversation, just based on what I know the community needed to hear in my, programming experience. And I was, able to pass the mic to people on the ground, like just connect them, and let the people who are actually on the front line and on the ground handle the conversation. And it was beautiful. It was really, really beautiful. We had the right people in the room, the right conversation taking place as a first step. And then there are conversations about, this is just the first step inshallah, in a series, and a larger effort that's going to try to get the larger Arab community together, the larger Metro Detroit community together, hopefully try to find some funding to find resources. And then the other thing that was able to help with that one is just put a folder of resources. There's a lot of research. There's a lot of resources that are already out there that we don't need to replicate, and just putting them all in one space for us to share around with our loved ones, with professionals. So in time of crisis, we don't have to, ask the same question over and over again. What do we do? Who do we go to? How do we prevent something that's very preventable?
SubhanAllah, a lot of the times our families or some of the parents in our communities are afraid to have their children talk to social workers at a young age. Like, they don't know what they're talking about, or they're so afraid to, sign that paper that allows them to talk to a social worker, And we have to work on that as a community for sure.
Yeah.
No, these are all great points, and I just wanted to throw that out there, that if there's ever anything that we can do to help, please let us know. Obviously, sharing stuff like that is important, but anything that you need from us, if we can maybe even be at the events, future reference, and just record if that's what you want us to do, stream if people are comfortable with that are on the panel. We'd love to support that as well, because obviously it's something that is going to take time to tackle this issue, and we can't even have the conversation at some point sometimes because some people are still uncomfortable having the conversation. So there's still that layer that we still gotta get through, then start taking those next steps as well, for sure.
It's a very uncomfortable conversation.
It is.
But we know, we
happening.
all know that we all have either family members or friends or relatives who have dealt with and struggled with mental health issues. We all know it. We might just pretend it's not there, but we all have that. Yeah. So the more people are sharing, the more people are openly talking about it, the less shaming is happening, And when we see people shaming others for, struggling with mental health issues, if we call that out or address it or find a way to challenge it, I think then we all move toward in the same direction.
And subhanAllah, I feel like everybody's going through something.
Everyone.
And we all have our own experiences, and the more that we are vulnerable and sharing those situations, everybody else, I feel like, would feel the same way, and it would be a little more normalized.
It's hard for them to distinguish it to mental health.
I'm loving the conversation. We have Hanan Ali Yahya. She said, Petra is a powerhouse, mashallah. So, a lot of people are, mentioning the great things that Petra does. So, Petra, we are not the only ones that see you as a role model.
Hanan is another trailblazer that if you haven't had here, definitely need to. She is doing a lot of amazing work quietly.
Nice. Inshallah, we'll get you on, Hanan, so be ready. Just want to throw that out there, all right? So then my next question is, I know you mentioned this already, but maybe we can dive into a little more about your work with the nonprofit ISPU, the Institute of Social Policy and Understanding. Can you tell us what that is a little bit more about, and what is it that you do, your role there, and everything like that?
Yeah, so ISPU, this is what I get paid to do.
Nice.
But it's really nice to get paid to do something that you actually like.
Yeah.
It's very comfortable.
Yeah.
So for a very long time, not by choice, have been quote unquote an educator. Educated people about American Muslims, about Yemenis, about this, about that. It just happened that I came across ISPU, which has been around actually for 20 years. It's a 20-year-old organization that was founded here in Michigan, but we are a national organization. We have an office in D.C., we have an office in Michigan, but we do national work. And we are the only one that does, rigorous research and education on American Muslims and issues that impact them. And I mean that, like everything. Marriage, divorce, family, mosque, how to make mosques more inclusive. What are the challenges with mosques? What are the best practices? How to have and to support healthy marriages, how to prevent divorce, how widespread is divorce, Islamophobia, civic engagement. Think about a topic, we have research and data on it. And so this is what we do. And that's why I love it. And so my role is to take that research and get it out to the public, to policymakers, to educators, to imams, to the public. I work with our communication department to get it out to the media folks, and so we do a lot of training. I just mentioned to you in October I was able to do a training for 400 educators in my hometown school district.
Full circle.
But I'm able to do that with health professionals, all of that. And it's really powerful because it's focused on two things. It's focused on helping the American Muslim community build its own capacity. So we want to look at American Muslims, look at ourselves, look at our institutions, look at our own issues, and say, okay, here's where we are. How do we build from there? How do we address our own challenges? But also look at the larger society and say, how do we fit in with the larger puzzle that's this American society and American pluralism? And how do we fully contribute, but also fully thrive and reach our potential? And so our research have made it from the local masjid to the White House and everything in between. And so that's the work that we do. As you mentioned, it's a nonprofit, it's a non-political. So just like we would share our research with the Biden administration, we will share it with the Trump administration, because our goal at the end of the day is that every decision about American Muslims is a decision based on facts. And the last piece I'm going to say about the work that we do is stories are very powerful, right? But the danger of that is I could say, well, this is just Amir's story. Omar is not like that. You could always make an exception. But with facts and numbers, they don't lie. Yeah. If I tell you 37% of Muslims do this, it's 37% of Muslims that do this. It doesn't change. And then the goal is that leaders and decision makers will look at the information and make decisions based on the facts that are on the ground.
So I have a question. I know we didn't have that much time to talk about it, but it's interesting to me that you went back to your hometown.
Yeah.
What were some of the topics that you kind of discussed with them?
Yeah, so they reached out because I mentioned to you the community have grown so much, so much in that space. And one of the things that our research found out is majority of Muslim families send their kids to public schools, more than 60%. Even though Islamic schools are growing, the majority of American Muslims still send their kids to public school. The unfortunate reality is about 48% of Muslim families say their kids have experienced religious-based bullying in the school system. And what's even more troubling is 1 out of 3 cases, or sometimes 1 out of 4, of the bullying cases happen at the hand of an adult in the school system.
Yeah.
So it's not the students, it's the teachers or the administrators. So that's kind of where we started with. So we took that data point, we created a whole curriculum around it that will teach about who are American Muslims, the diversity, the contributions, the challenges. We designed, activities around religious-based bullying. So just a lot of content, and then we customize it to the school district that reach out to us. And so that training was a full day. It went from everything from the presentations on who are American Muslims to including a panel of students from that school district to share their own experience, and that's always
powerful.
very powerful. That's always the most powerful piece
Yes.
of the training,
The
because
kids have to be brave.
they're very brave. They're very brave. They're very intelligent. They are very honest, and the administrators in the room and the teachers all, first of all, they love them. That's usually the most popular segment of the whole training, obviously. But it's really eye-opening for the teachers and the administrators to hear from their students and to say, oh, I thought I was, that I worked really hard to make it a very inclusive space. But they don't hear how the small interactions that happen repeatedly impact the students, or the lack of action sometimes how it impacts students.
Did you allow like a question portion where the teachers were like, did you get any,
To the
like,
students?
interesting- no, more of like the teachers having questions.
Oh yeah. I love getting questions from audience. First of all, doing a full day training, if you don't allow for
Yeah,
some kind of
interaction.
engagement, they'll fall asleep. Like, it does not matter what kind of a speaker you are. And so there's always always portions of questions that come from the audience, because the content is heavy. There's a lot of content and people just don't remember a lot of it, but they want to know the answer to their own questions. So a lot of questions came around disability and dealing with children who have disabilities and the stigma around that, and getting resources to the families. Yeah, it's huge. There were a lot of questions, of course, about, girls, hijab, marriage, forced marriages, arranged marriages. There were a lot of questions on music,
Yes.
halal or haram.
It's in every school.
Yeah.
SubhanAllah.
So it's like, on one hand, it's like, I felt like I've answered some of these questions growing up because
They
that
had
was
no
my
one else to go
experience
to,
too.
but like,
But it was just funny to see that some of the questions that my generation was struggling with are the exact questions that are still in the school system today. Yeah,
Well, may Allah bless you for the work that you do.
thank you.
I mean, seriously, great work. I can see why you love the work that you're doing, because like the stuff, it sounds like something that you're passionate about.
I'm very passionate about it.
Yeah.
I have nieces and nephews that are in the school system. I love them dearly. And I genuinely just want to make the space a better space for everyone.
Yeah.
So it's like whatever we could share, just make it happen.
And at the same time, like, I feel like working in a school as well, I always tell my coworkers that are non-Muslim, no question is a stupid question. Ask me. I'm open. I'll never take anything in offense, because I want them to be able to be comfortable, and instead of them assuming, So
I tell them, ask Abid if you guys have any questions, because I think, no, I'm joking. But I was going to say, believe it or not, because we are both teachers, and we work together, and we are at Hanley International Academy, Ramsey. So we're going to go ahead and run the Hanley International Academy ad before we continue with part 2. We're pretty much done with the first half of this question. So go ahead and run that Hanley ad, and we'll start off with part 2.
Hanley International Academy. Hanley is a school that treats every student and staff like their own family. It's even in their vision statement, educating your child like our own. Did you also know that Hanley offers a virtual academy? So if you're looking for your kid to sign up for an online school, look no further than Hanley's virtual academy. But if you're looking for face-to-face, Hanley International Academy is located on 2400 Denton Street, Hamtramck, Michigan. The athletics there are great. The academics there are great. Shout out to the whole staff for being great teachers and educators for our leaders of tomorrow.
Don't talk to me.
All right.
it's true.
So
They're good ages.
this is about to be panel questions, okay?
Okay.
All right, so, when we find these questions, I do research, and we go try to find things that you've done in the past and stuff like that. So You were part of a panel for ISPU Mass ISNA 2022 sessions. All right, we want to hear your thoughts on some of the topics that were discussed during this session. There were a lot of topics that was discussed during that session. First up, all right, can you tell us what was discussed when the panel was talking about, this is a big one, and I was kind of doing my research too about it, and it was very complicated, abortion. All right, abortion and its legality in Islam. So I don't know if you're going to have all the answers.
Legality in the U.S.
Oh, in the U.S. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that session and all of ISPU sessions at Mass ICNA, just a clarification. So like what I do is I take our research and I have to find a way to make it make sense to the public. Because you look at, nobody's going to sit and read a report. Some of us do. And then you look at a data point and you're like, okay, well, what does that mean for my life? So I have to find a way to make it make sense to the listener. So those panels, I designed them, right? So like I put together the speakers. Of course, I work with my team. I work with our director of research, Dali Mujahid. I work with our research team and our communication team to make sure that everything that we're presenting is holistic. And so, like, whether it's that topic or others, most of the programming that you see come out of ISPU, I have a very heavy hand in it, putting it together. And so all the panels at Mass ICNA, I just happened to plan them this time around and be a speaker because the rest of our team was either traveling or sick with COVID.
Crazy.
And so that was, subhanAllah. So the abortion topic, over the summer, obviously, the whole country was talking about abortion and legality of abortion because of the Supreme Court cases. And one of the projects that we do, one of the research projects we have is called American Muslim Poll, where we surveyed the general public, American general public, including American Muslims, and that's what makes it unique. What do American Muslims think about abortion? What do American Muslims think about gun control? What do they think about the environment? You name it. And so for the first time, we had this national data on abortion in American Muslim views on the legality of abortion. And so, first of all, we released the data early because it was just very timely. And then we had a conversation at Mass ICNA. And even though we don't do anything with theology at ISP, we don't do religion, we do social science. It's very important to differentiate. We know that the conversation was really important from a religious perspective for the community, so we had to include, an imam. So of course we included, Sheikh Abdurrahman Khan, who was the chairman of the Sharia Council of Islamic Circle of North America and a member of the Fiqh Council. I mean, like,
Wow. This is a top. Yeah.
I can't say anything above that, right? And then we included Dr. Susie Ismail, who's the founder and head of communication counselor at Cornerstone. And they do a lot of work around family. And so she shared her own story. So first of all, to kind of backtrack a little bit, when we looked at the data, what do American Muslims think about abortion? Only 16% of American Muslims, and we're talking about a representative sample, said that abortion should be illegal in all cases.
Wow.
Only 16%.
Should be illegal?
Illegal.
Okay.
Now, we're not talking about halal and haram. We're talking about legality versus illegality. Those are two different things.
Yeah, for sure.
It's nice if they overlap, but knowing that we live in a society that's not governed by Islamic law, it's really important to keep the two separate. When Susie shared her story, she shared her own personal stories. She shared about miscarriages. She shared about some health complicated problems with pregnancies, but in the health system, they were labeled as abortions.
Even miscarriages?
Absolutely. So that, to me, was a huge point for us to understand in the Muslim community. There is religion, there's how the health system defines things, and then there is how the implication politically for us as a minority community.
Wow.
Right?
Abortions are not on purpose. I'm sorry. Miscarriages are not on purpose. Let me fix
Exactly. So it's when we looked at, and the whole point for me with that conversation, and even when I saw the conversation happening locally, was we really need to understand the implications for making decisions politically. It's not just black and white. It's not halal and haram. It is halal and haram for us religiously, but how we vote on it and the implications that it will have is huge. There's like, it's very complex, right? So you can't just say, oh, this is haram, this is how I'm gonna vote. They don't necessarily translate that way. The other thing that the sheikh shared was, in Islam there's a lot of permissibility about, you know, abortion, health of the mother, health of the child. There's like a lot of exceptions in a lot of cases. I'm not a religious scholar, so I'm not going to go into details. But what he ended up sharing was, I felt he was way more liberal than I am in some of his conversations, but he was coming at it from a religious perspective, you know? And so the bottom line message for me in that conversation was, if we just vote on that issue from, oh, abortion is haram, this is how I'm going to vote, then one, we're limiting our rights as a Muslim group, you know, because some of the laws that are being passed in certain states, they're black and white,
Yeah.
right? So we're technically given up our own rights as a community where our faith have allowed us a lot of flexibility. And also we're not thinking of the implications that it have on other health concerns. You know, families that are not able to have kids naturally, what does that mean for them? There's a lot of implications there. You know, miscarriages, pregnancies that should not continue because of the health of the child or the health of the mother. You know, there were a lot of stories that we heard about hospitals forcing women to carry that pregnancy, even though I don't know the proper term, but the child was technically dead in her womb, until she have an infection, because that's when it's medically allowable for her to have a marriage. So like, there's so many stories that we just need to be aware of, and as a community just need to understand that it's a wider conversation, and we need to be more politically savvy for us to make those decisions, not just haram, vote this way, halal, vote this way. It's more complex.
There's no
than
black
that.
and white.
It's a very deep topic. It deserves its own kind of show, to be honest with you. I knew that we weren't going to really be able to touch on everything that we need to. But yeah, it's definitely something. Like, I was watching a video on Ahmed Suleiman, and he broke it down. I'm like, oh my God, there's so many levels to it. Like, there's levels to levels. There's a levels to every level of like breaking it down. And that's Islamically, by the way.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's definitely something that is very interesting. I like how you said like you know, when we vote on something like that, you should consider everything before you know. I know Islamically we might think like it's haram or let's vote against it, but really, like you said, we're limiting ourselves for sure.
And I say that purposely because whether it's this issue or a lot of the other social issues that we're very passionate about, what I'm seeing a trend in our community, and I'm talking about the Yemeni community, but it's also part of the larger American space. You know, there are people who are very engaged, and then there are people who are kind of in between, and then the people who just, I follow Umar in their show, so I trust everything they're gonna say. Really, there are people who do that. Or I follow the local imam, or I follow this person, so I take their word seriously. And so for any one of us that's in the public space, or for religious leaders specifically, before we issue a statement on a social topic, we really need to also break down to the community the social and the political implications of our choice and our decision. And we need to distinguish, this is the Islamic ruling on a certain thing, but here are the different ways it will impact you socially and politically. Because if we just hand them the religious ruling, which a lot of people, that's what they just follow, they might not understand all of the other things. And we're really doing disservice to a lot of people by just keeping it very narrow and keeping it black and white. And that's unfortunately what I'm seeing, and one of the really main motivators for me to speak on this topic.
Wow, subhanAllah. So I'm noticing like a common trend. When you decide to put together these panels,
Yeah.
Is this a need from the community? Do you see a need from the statistics that you have?
Yeah.
Is it a need from like someone telling you? Like, is it just all together? Like,
All of it. So, for example, the American Muslim poll that we do, there are standard topics that we measure every year, or every other year now. We look at Islamophobia. That's never going to stop. We look at civic engagement, how that have changed over time. And then there are topics that we add in new every year. So we add them either because of previous research. So the interesting thing about research is you find one answer and you're left with 10 more questions,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So like this, abortion. Okay, now we know what people think about legality, but there's a whole lot of other questions that we still need to figure out. So those are topics that we could potentially add to future polls. But sometimes we know a conversation is taking place in the country. You know, we know everyone is talking about gun control, everyone is talking about environment, but no one have researched the American community's views on those. You know, we know locally what that means, but no one could point and say, oh, here's what the National American Muslim community think about this topic. And so as a faith community, we're left, or our views are left often from really important conversations when we're actually doing a lot of work in that space. So America, like, you know,
Even
so-
when we were having the divorce topic, I'm sorry,
Yeah, yeah.
we were struggling on finding statistics on like Muslim American
Yeah, yeah.
divorces and all that good
Petra
stuff.
came through.
Yes.
Petra
yes.
came through the statistics, by the way.
Yes.
That's
So
fine.
that was amazing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But subhanAllah.
Well, now we know who to come to for all the stats and
And then what
information.
also, like, I feel like the way that we try to look for people to come on the show is that we see what's going on and we want someone. It's basically kind of like a smaller panel or a one-person panel.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know if that's a panel anymore, but you know, just so it's interesting.
Yeah,
I don't know.
and then the last piece is our research inform what other a lot of other Muslim organizations work. You know, so we work we're kind of, because we're not activists, even though I'm loud and I have a lot of opinions about a lot of things.
you
Technically,
should.
for our work,
As you should know.
we're not activists. So what we do is we share those research and those data points with organizations that are working on that space. So for example, there are organizations that work on domestic violence. We share our research on domestic violence. They create the resources around them. We share our research with civic organizations. You know, here's how, here's what the percentage of American Muslims who are registered to vote. You know, and then they built like whole campaigns on getting the community out to vote. So that's our work is kind of in the background a little bit,
I love it.
but it informs the work of other organizations.
That's so nice.
Yeah.
Muna Abdullah just said, I don't know, not our Muna Abdullah. I think this is Muna Abdullah. You might know Muna Abdullah if I'm correct.
Your,
Yeah.
Yeah.
She just said amazing podcast. Thank you so much, Muna. We appreciate you for the shout out as well. My next question, you talked about Islamophobia. So that was another topic in the ICNA. I said it wrong last time. I said ISNA. That's probably a whole nother organization.
we're also at ISNA.
Oh, okay.
ISNA is, yes, we're also at ISNA conference. We're at Mass ICNA. We're at ICNA Mass. We're
There you go.
everywhere we need to be.
So how do you feel people should counter Islamophobia? That was a whole topic. So, help us out here, because this is something, like you said, it's never going to end. I feel like it's going to always be there. The more Islam is out there, the more obviously people are going to want to know about it. And then it's going to have your
Right.
people that are going to obviously deter it and try to stop it as best as they can. So
Yeah.
how do you feel people, and this is probably like, I'm talking from like middle schoolers, high schoolers, teenagers, to even adults, to
Yeah.
anyone. How do you feel people should, I guess, counter Islamophobia?
We have a full toolkit on our website.
Oh.
Countering
wow.
Dismantling Islamophobia.
Toolkit, huh?
With very specific cases of where Islamophobia have existed, what people did, and what are the lessons learned. So that's the first thing.
What's the website, by the way?
ISPU.org.
Okay.
I'll send you the link and
Yeah.
you can share it. But very quickly. First of all, for us as Muslims, we just need to accept and come to term that Islamophobia exists. Because there are some people in the community who's like, Islamophobia is in your head. No, Islamophobia is real. It's there, it exists, it impacts people. It's also what we call an ISPU. It's one of the branches on the tree of bigotry. Okay, so it's very connected, from personal experiences to research to other forms of racism and isms. There's a link. People who are Islamophobic also tend to be anti-Semite, also discriminate against LGBTQ, against immigrants, against women. They're just equal discrimination opportunity. The other powerful thing for us as a community to know is, yes, Islamophobia happen at the interpersonal level, right? So that exists, and we have the data and the numbers on it. But where it really harms American Muslims is the institutional Islamophobia. And that's American Muslims experiencing discrimination in institutions, and state institutions, whether it's the airport, where 44% of American Muslims experience discrimination. If you have traveled, you know what that means.
You know what's crazy? The one thing about the airport situation, it's like not even hide. Like they don't even hide it.
Right.
It's like
But for us, we used to think, oh, it's just me. It's all in my head, right?
yeah.
But now what we could do is we could show not only ourselves and our community, so like reaffirm, no, you're not crazy, this is real, but we could show people in decision-making positions, this is what we're experiencing in your institutions, right? Similar thing to, for a very long time, it was terrorists are Muslims, Muslims are terrorists, right? And every time there was something happening, we were like, oh, please, God, I hope it's not a Muslim,
Yes.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then we felt like it was only Muslims that are doing these things. So we have a full report on how the media and the legal system treated those cases. And of course, there was a, emphasis on the identity, if it was a Muslim versus the same thing happening by a non-Muslim.
When I was a kid, I thought a terrorist was a Muslim person trying to, like, I thought the definition was a Muslim person trying to, like, hurt a group. Not that it was anyone hurting, And that was...
Well, and that's the climate we all lived in, and that's what's contributing to all of the trauma, the identity issues. Anyway, so there's a lot of that. But airports, while applying for a job, healthcare setting, 25% of American Muslims experience discrimination.
Wow.
Social media platforms themselves, not from other users, but like the platform like kicking you out, closing your account,
banning
flagging you, all of that. Other institutions, So it's a systemic issue. The way we could counter it very quickly, keep demystifying Islam. The more we share about Islam actually shows that it reduces levels of Islamophobia because people know the truth. Work with other impacted groups, build allies and work with other groups. Call it out, really work with the fact that it's systemic means we need to address it within the system, address the system itself. And those are some of the recommendations, but like I said, we have a full toolkit on that I'll drop you the link.
Yeah, for sure.
I
Well,
used to always say growing up, what you allow will continue.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, like you said, calling it out.
for sure. No, I love it. And then one of the other ones that I wanted to dive into from the Mass ICNA conference is what was discussed when talking about American Muslim views on gun control. Okay, because this is a one that's been, in the United States of America.
Yeah.
Definitely a topic that's been happening, especially with all the school shootings that are happening. And, I have, you have friends group who are very, for having that protection, on them.
Yeah.
And so it's like, what was the talk like? What was that discussion like, with American Muslims on gun control?
Yeah. So that conversation was also very interesting and very lively. We had Imam Zaid Shakir, we had Sister Amina Matthew, who's literally on the street stopping gun violence, like literally stopping gun violence, There's a documentary that was made about her. And we had Dr. Dalia Fahmy talking about, the political implications of that. So we had people who are on the ground. So first of all, on that issue, and in all other issues for that matter, before we immigrant communities come and say we know the answer, we know the problem, we should really take a step back and look at what the African American community have been doing, because they've been doing this for longer than us. And they have a lot of lessons for us to share and learn from. And they're actually on the ground. So that one is complicated because, people are very Second Amendment, my rights, I want to protect myself, my family. But on the other hand, now we know that actually gun violence is the primary killer of children in the U.S. Is
Yeah.
the number one
Yeah.
killer of children in the U.S., surpassing cancer and auto car accidents.
Wow. I would never say.
And actually, like if you call U of M Health Center to make an appointment or whatever, their message is about that. Make sure that if your kid is going on a play date, that if they have a gun, it's secure and all of that. So it is we've had more gun shootings or mass shootings in the country as of 2 days ago than we've had days in the year.
Wow.
So that's the problem we're talking about. You know, it's places of worship, it's shopping centers, it's schools, it's everywhere. So where do American Muslims stand on this? We looked at the data, and again, the community was a little bit split. But what we found is more than 6 in 10 Muslims, so 65% of American Muslims, believe that gun laws covering the sale of firearms should be stricter.
Yeah.
Okay? Again, I think what people go for when it comes to this topic, they automatically go for the worst case scenario. Everyone wants to take your gun away or whatever. I don't think people are there. There's so much more to be done between where we are right now and get into that step that we can, as a country, really do and pass laws on and actually enforce them or enforce what's already in the books to literally save lives. And we are a community that's about saving lives, and so it's not against our faith to kind of work within that realm.
Yeah.
Great answer, Ramsey. If you want to go ahead and give her a round of applause, and then we're going to run another ad, Ramsey, as well, before we hit her with the Motivate Me 313 minutes, which is Abid is going to be preparing for. What a great discussion today. I feel like we learned a lot, didn't we? Like in this span of this 1 hour.
100%.
Well, you don't have your phone on you? That's what you're looking like.
Ramsey,
Okay.
my phone for my purse.
So before you do that, Ramsey, though, go ahead and
I
run the
didn't even
Qahwa
need
House
my phone
ad.
today. I was just like, I'm just gonna listen and learn.
Shout out to Qahwa House. We were there on Saturday after. Did you go to the UHF event, Iman Ali Ahmed?
I did not, unfortunately.
Okay.
A lot of the lovely ladies were there, and I missed it.
Yeah.
But they know they got my support.
Yeah, for sure. So we were there, and alhamdulillah, it was a great time. But shout out to UHF. But we were at Qahwa House. We seen Ibrahim there as well, the owner. We said what's up to him. So go ahead and give him a shout out, and then we're gonna go ahead and finish off the show. The Qahwa House. The Qahwa House is the first coffee shop of its kind. The Qahwa House is a family business established in 2017 for the sole purpose of providing the best quality Yemeni coffee with no added preservatives, artificial additives, or flavors. You can stop by Qahwa House to try their famous Yemeni latte, Adani Shahi, Mafawad, and Jubani coffees. You can also stop by to try their delicious pastries, such as the Yemeni favorite sabaya, their sembusas, and their new menu item, Everything Mini Bites. There are currently 4 Qahwa House locations, with 2 of them coming soon as well, to make it a total of 6. Their 4 locations is West Dearborn, East Dearborn, Williamsburg, New York, Lombard, Illinois, with 2 new locations coming in Canton, Michigan, and Petersburg, New Jersey. So no matter where you're at in the country, be sure to stop by a Qahwa House and get a glimpse of what the Yemeni culture is all about.
I just want to say I'm very thirsty. First juice box, then Qahwa House.
I know.
Yeah, shout out to...
This is not Ramadan friendly.
yeah, I know. I didn't hit y'all's Balkan House today, so I try to give you guys... benefit of the doubt with the Balkan House, because they got some great food over there. Shout out to Balkan House. Shouts again to all of our sponsors: BC Adhesives, Balkan House, Qahwa House, Hanley International Academy, and our new one, Juice Box and Hamtramck. Shout out to all 5 of them. With that said, we will now go ahead with the Motivate Me 313 minutes. And by the way, for those that are giving us these shout outs on the comments, be sure to share it. Like that's the best way of doing it, and giving this word out there that Petra's talking. She's saying some amazing things. So be sure to share it, like it, obviously, subscribe to the page. Hopefully we have more conversations like this, and inshallah we can get Petra on again to talk about anything that she wants to talk about, because she's the lady with the statistics. Now I'm happy we got a statistics lady.
Facts.
Literally, seriously, I'm serious. Like I'm all about numbers.
Same.
You're
more credential.
I'm not
Yeah.
a researcher.
But you
But I
you
have
have
the
it.
but you can provide us with the people that are the researchers or have the research.
I got you. Whatever you need, I got you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I kind of just gave her that title without even saying. Yeah, I'm sorry. I apologize.
He does that a lot.
My bad. Motivate Me 313 minute. Basically, you are a huge advocate on community work. What advice do you have for someone who may struggle with giving back to the community or doesn't know how to give back to the community? What would you tell them?
I will tell them, be the change that you want to see in the world. Find that little fire that's burning in your belly. Okay? That's the issue you deeply care about. focus on it, invest your time, find the people that are working on it, and connect with them, because that's the beautiful thing about social media today. I will say invest in your education and stay focused on a big dream that you have. And if you don't have it right now, sit down and just write your passion. What are you passionate about? What gets you going? And work on that.
I love it. Ramsey, you want to go ahead and give that another round of applause. Petra Alsoofy, thank you so much for coming on the show today. Seriously, I appreciate it so much. You did an amazing job.
Thank you.
Natural, mashallah. Like, you know, usually I was telling her before the show, like usually people come here and, you know, you could tell like they're a little anxious, but she just came here, sat down, was comfortable, you know, did her thing. You know, I'm sorry we couldn't give you any qahwa house because we usually.
I was just about to say that.
Yeah. We usually give you, you know, coffee and all that
For
stuff.
next time.
Yeah,
Yes.
inshallah. For next time. For those that are watching, again, this was season 2, episode 29 of Motivate Me 313's podcast. We titled this one Women Pioneers because she is another woman pioneer. There were so many different topics. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to wrap it up like that. You know, be sure to subscribe to our pages. You got YouTube, Oz Media, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, Oz Media. You can listen to the show later on Apple and Spotify podcasts under Oz Media. Again, be sure to like, subscribe, follow. Shout out to the sponsors, B-City Adhesives, Balkan House, Qahwa House, Hanley, and Juice Box Hamtramck. Any final words, ladies? I know side of this was more of a show if you're listening to it. What do you got to say about the whole show and everything that happened today?
No, I really appreciate what you're doing for just not only Muslim people, but literally everyone around us, because one, the people that don't know, and like for instance me as a Muslim not knowing all these statistics, it's really nice to know.
Yeah, and she's bringing really both sides together.
yeah.
You know, she's trying to help the people that are non-Muslim to know that we are ordinary people just like you and I or anybody else. You know, we just have a little bit different things going on with us, and then also helping Muslim people know a little bit more about themselves, to be honest with you. And there's no better way of knowing about yourselves than with facts. You know, again, opinions, everybody has a different opinion, but the facts just kind of trumps it all. But Abid, what are your overall thoughts on how everything went today?
I love how you ended it with really feeling that burn, because everybody has it, and you don't have it for no reason.
Yep.
Subhanallah, and it's like your purpose. And once you realize what that is, work would not be work anymore, right? And like you said before, you love it. You love your job. And Allahumma barak, thank you for what you're doing for our community.
No, thank you guys. And I was just telling Amar before we start, I feel very, very proud that we have a show by Yemenis, not only for Yemenis, but actually for everyone. And that's the beautiful thing. Because 20 years ago, we couldn't even dream of something like this. So very, very, very proud of you guys and the work that you're doing.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and inshallah, again, we'll have you on another time with another conversation that you feel like it's important or passionate about. Now that we have that connection, anytime you think there's a topic that you think that one, anyone that you may know that should come on, and then two, one that you would love to come on, please feel free to let us know. We're always open to it. That's what we want to be. We want to be a nice conversation for the community and a platform for the community as well. So thank you all for that were watching. We hope that you enjoyed this episode. Again, I'm going to say Ramadan Kareem for those that are practicing this month. We hope that you are, it's what, day 12 now, mashallah. The time is flying. It's day 12. So we are entering the second half, or almost about to be in the second half of Ramadan. So again, season 2, episode 29 of Motivate Me 313 podcast. We'll be back again next week with another recommendation from Muna Maudi, by the way, back-to-back recommendations from Muna Maudi. So looking forward to this conversation as well.
I love that. I love women supporting women.
Yeah, for sure. So we hope you enjoy it. We'll see you all